I wanted to talk about your communication skills a little bit. I remember last year you and I drove to St. Mary's practice together. I think we were doing something here, and then we drove to practice together. And on the drive down, you probably had 3 phone calls like over the PA in your car, the system, and you were talking to these people like you've known them your whole life. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I don't know. But I remember that driving down to St. Mary's, and you having those conversations, and you being able to connect with those people, even if it was about nothing. Even yesterday when you called me, I was amazed on how, we haven't spoken in like a month, but yesterday we talked how 2 friends have known each other their entire life, and now you're here. It fascinates me the way you're able to communicate. So I wanted to talk about Bridgewater and growing up. Growing up in Bridgewater, did that help you with your communication skills, or being a coach and developing over time, did that help your communication skills?
I think this is going to come threefold. One, being in a small town, a small community, you know everybody, so you say hi to everybody. Like you grew up in Bridgewater.
But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, well, you grew up in Bridgewater. The running joke was if you farted on High Street, they knew on King Street. Like, so you didn't, so you didn't do anything in the town without anybody really knowing. So there's my point: is you knew everybody. I will tell you, we weren't regular, but we were pretty regular churchgoers. My mom always had me in the church plays. I took on a role, some type of a lead role, where I would talk, or I would be the narrator.
Did it come natural?
And it did. Yes, it did. It absolutely did. So much so, if I'm being a little silly, I was in one Christmas play where there were 2 people there, and they were both completely stage fright, and they lost their lines, and I was the reporter, so I reported, and I would ask them the question, and I would answer their question, and then asked if they were okay with their answer, and they were given the one-word answer. So talking has always been a little bit, I say I get the gift of gab from my mother. So talking, I've never really ever been that shy either.
Yeah.
I've never been afraid. If I wanted to meet somebody, I thought that you have to make your own opportunity. So, coming from that small town, that's one. 2, I'll go back. I'll give Steiny some more credit.
Steiny.
Right? I was his kid, right? Like, I was his kid, and he's the guy that made me at a very young age. He was the one that made me call the restaurants and set up the team meals. He made me call the buses and, do the itineraries before all the email days, and you had to communicate with guys. He put me in those positions to give me that experience. So you're nervous. Like when you talk about the communications, if I was to flip back to say even one of the hard things, like you asked me about the hard part of the job, get up in front of a team 4 times every night and have to say something. I got the pregame speech. You're going in before, so we have a meeting at 5:15. You're going in before the game. You're going in after the first. You're going back in after the first. You're going in after the second. You're going back in before the start of the third. You're in there, and you've got to say something to these guys every time. I always used to think about basketball coaches. What do basketball coaches do every time they call timeout? They come there and you're standing there. Well, think about how many timeouts there are constantly in basketball.
A lot.
Right? There's a lot. So you got to constantly drawing up plays. You're talking to these guys. So I'm thinking to myself, how hard would it be to be a basketball coach? You got to constantly have something to say all the time. Well, I'm facing it now, right?
Yeah.
But Trevor's given me that opportunity. St. Mary's has afforded me the opportunity to be in places, to be a part of events, and to get up and actually give an address or speak. So there's number 2. And number 3, I'll tell you, I read a book. I don't read many of them. And Ty Domi's book. And one of the things he says in his book is talk to everybody. Because he makes a comment about whether you're walking out of the rink and you're seeing the ushers, or you're walking into the rink and you're seeing the Zamboni guys, they're all as important as the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So why don't you say hi to them? So, for me to be able to kick around and have a chit-chat with the painters at St. Mary's. I ran into one of them at the beach down in Hubbard's this summer. I walk over. He's a painter at St. Mary's. I've known him for 20 years.
Is it Jai?
Jai, yeah. Tony, yeah. Jai.
Quake's a good friend of mine. Jai,
Yeah.
Jai's been on this podcast.
Yeah, so I took an opportunity to meet Jai 25 years ago. Well, we sat and crushed a couple beers in Hubbard's this summer. but I walk over, and I'm not saying I'm not the best guy, like I'm not something special because I did it, but I saw him down the beach. Why wouldn't I walk down and say, hi, this guy works with me. We've worked for 2 decades together. But, we're talking about everything but hockey. And that's the best about like what I like. So what I like to do, and this is why it probably seems so natural, I want to know your story. Like, when you and me were started to talk, we came here and I know what we were talking about. We were talking about advertising. But the whole time with you, I want to know your story. The last time we chatted is, how did you get started? Why did you do this? Right? I think it's fascinating.
Yeah,
but
me
I want
too,
to
yeah.
but I want to know your story. Yeah. Right? And so I think that's one of the things that has allowed me to communicate or not be afraid to communicate or to have conversations. Because you would be surprised. You'd be surprised, and you ask Chris Larad from the women's team how many times he's traveled with me in spring hockey, and we're sitting in the Baton Rouge or Montreal, and I'll wave to a guy, and he'll be like, "Who's that?" I'll be like, "I don't know. I met him here 3 years ago." Right? And then I'll go over and I'll start talking to these guys, and we're chit-chatting, and I'll be like, hey, the golf course that you recommended to us, it was awesome. He's like, yeah, right. I didn't know if you remembered me.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, well, I've been coming here for 20 years. You've been sitting in that same spot for 20 years, and we finally spoke 3 years ago. Of course I'm going to remember you. So
That's amazing.
yeah, so that's me in a nutshell, and I'm not shy. I'm not even a little bit shy, right?